Hello everybody and welcome back to the video. I'm your host OT and a bit of a different video for you today. So as most of you may or may not already know, Doctor Who will be cancelled. It's going to be... Look, the ratings speak for themselves. It's had the lowest rated series in years, the lowest rated series ever, and it can't be saved. As though I feel as though it can't be saved. There is no fixing it now. Just let it die. Just let it go. I approach this in such a bitter manner because a while ago I made a video saying how I would fix Doctor Who, and that would obviously be to wipe out the Timeless Child and wipe out everything that's happened post Peter Capaldi would be considered not canon. But I've chosen a different approach to this. You see, I'm also going to compare this to Disney Star Wars because everyone hates the sequels and Disney Star Wars in general. But there are some fans who like Mando, Andor, anything Dave Filoni made. But what they fail to realise is that doesn't erase the sequel trilogy. And in fact, there were Star Wars media set after Return of the Jedi throughout the expanded universe and the Clone Wars multimedia project. And it's the very same for Doctor Who, because if you were to somehow fix it, that doesn't erase everything post Peter Capaldi from existence. It doesn't erase the Timeless Children, it doesn't erase the anniversary specials, and it certainly doesn't erase Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor from existence. So therefore, it's damaged beyond repair. You know, we all thought that Russell T Davies was going to fix this, but in fact he's made it much worse than it already was. And since Peter Capaldi left, it has been blow after blow after blow after blow after hit after hit after hit after hit. And eventually now, it's like watching an already dead body getting tortured. Or at least looking at a zombie just floating round, drained of what it is, without feeling. And no one wants to see that. You know, I haven't really bothered with anything Big Finish for years. Even though they are re-releasing some of their old things, which... it's just for member berries, okay? We don't need any more re-releases when we can go and buy the original on CD either on eBay or on Amazon. Hell, and the cover art's much better quality anyway, because you remember they had all the banners, and when they got rid of those, it was frustrating, because that's one of the things that made Big Finish Productions special. It's what made it stood out from the novels and the TV show. I guess I'm depressed about this, because it's too left-leaning. We're tired of being told what to think by people on our screens. Alright? So, Robot Revolution, for instance, as a man, it made me feel angry because of the way that they portrayed single young men like me. And Belinda's so-called boyfriend was an over-the-top parody, as was Comrade What's-His-Face, who I think should either play the Master or would be a much better Doctor than Ncuti. And what the worst thing about this is that it's Belinda who then calls this out, when she's not a man and she can't become a man unless she starts calling herself Brad or Bloke. The quality of the monsters has definitely gone down as well. None of them are threatening anymore. And they continue to rewrite it constantly. There is an established law and it has to be followed. And time after time, it has been broken. It's made the Time Lords completely irrelevant. It's taken the whole point of the Doctor being the Doctor out of his personality. Bi-generation completely takes the point out of regeneration, and as regeneration is explained as a way of a Time Lord dying, it ruins that raw emotion that one feels when saying goodbye to the Doctor. As for the monster problem, they're all too goofy. Alright, Mr. Ring-a-Ding was an absolutely ridiculous excuse for a so-called god. Another example is the Thing from Space Babies, in which it could have been a horror story had we not have had the Space Babies, and it would have been an abandoned space station, and that monster could be roaming around, and it wouldn't be made of bogies. It could have been a great horror story, but they decide to make it all goofy. And don't even get me started on bloody Jinx Monsoon and whatever that was. The bird monsters from Rogue, are you serious? And then Sutekh looked absolutely nothing like the original character, and an over CGI'd and completely weak, overpowered shadow of his former self. I feel sorry for the guy who voiced him, because that's the same actor who voiced him in Pyramids of Mars and the Bernie Summerfield story. The goblins made me feel quite uncomfortable because they ate babies, which, as this is a family show, shouldn't really be a thing. And then more recently, they brought back the Rani. Big Finish did it much better. And they've wasted the potential of Mrs. Flood. She shouldn't have bi-generated. And it's made a complete mockery of Anita Dobson. And now they're bringing back Omega. I'm just like, what? Seriously? Just leave the lore alone. And then for the monsters in the Comrade What's-His-Face episode, why did they have to mess it up? They had great potential to be creatures of horror, but they decided to just go, you know what, let's make it an over-the-top Alex Jones character. And then we have Unit. Now, they're just too overpowered. Like, first of all, there's no way anyone would possess any of that technology in 2025, and they certainly wouldn't be based in a big skyscraper like they're in the Stark Tower, you know? I preferred it when they were based in the Tower of London, and yes, I know they have the Black Archive, but it just gives it more of a feel for the present day. You know, if Unit are too overpowered, then they're far too perfect. It's like they can rule the world. And what about Torchwood? They still a thing? Now we're going to talk about the companions. So, the whole Ruby Sunday storyline was quite intriguing until the end, where they decided, you know what, let's just make it be a teenage mother all along, because modern BBC. Look, hell, and her name even sounds similar to Lucy Miller. She even has the same surname as her, but similar sounding as well. And then Belinda Chandra, same surname as Rani Chandra from Sarah Jane. And annoying as hell. Is all that she does complain all the time about things? Then we have the Doctor himself. This is the absolute epitome of what the Doctor's character is. The Doctor's character seeks justice. He is never cruel, never cowardly. And I know what you're all thinking. Actually, the Ninth Doctor tortured a Dalek in Dalek. Well, that's because it's a Dalek. It waged a war against Gallifrey. And yes, there are times when the Doctor has sometimes let his darker personality show. But, actually, the 5th and 12th Doctors almost killed Davros. In fact, both of them thought that they could end this now. The 4th Doctor had the chance to prevent the Daleks from ever getting off of Skaro when he almost touched the two wires together, and even Sarah Jane tried to convince him to do so. And the 10th Doctor almost killed the man who got Jenny killed. But you know why they didn't do it? Because he's the Doctor. And as Capaldi stated, as long as there's always mercy. And the 11th Doctor once said that if he did have a weapon or remotely kill anyone, then he wouldn't be the Doctor anymore. Whereas this Doctor, all he's ever done is berate and belittle everyone. Hell, take the scene with Comrade What's-His-Face. I bring up him quite a lot because he's an example of over-the-top writing. He just bullies him and talks him down as if Russell is talking to us directly. And he's wrote this Doctor as a bully. And then we have the crying. Now, feelings are okay for anyone, alright? They're a fact of life, they're chemicals in our bodies, and we can't help that. Unless you have either an emotional inhibitor chip, or happen to join the Borg collective. Unless you are then disconnected from said collective. Or if you join the Jedi Order and stray away from the dark side, you know, a holocron a day keeps the dark side at bay. But in all seriousness, the Doctor crying nearly every episode gets a bit boring. At least when it happened with Tennant and Smith, they both had reasons, i.e. saying goodbye to Rose Tyler, the Ponds dying. The 12th Doctor got angry when Missy misled him by saying that Gallifrey's returned, but in fact it hadn't. And the 8th Doctor lost it a few times when Lucy Miller died, and wanting to go towards the end of the universe to see how everything turned out of his grief. But the Doctor crying like he does by stepping on a landmine is so unlike him. Another thing is that what I noticed in the 60th specials is that the Doctor is so bitter towards the human race. And that's never been his attitude. You know, the Doctor loves humanity. You know, why did he go to Totter's Lane if he'd have been so resentful of humanity like that? The way I see it is that humanity is fantastic. On both sides, they can create immense things and go so far and have limitless potential, especially when it comes to space exploration. You know, reaching out to the stars and exploring the seas. You know, I wish we could have that attitude again towards the humans, and it would be nice if this was reflected in the Doctor. Now, I don't mean to say anything like this, but I feel as though, and Peter Davison said this as well, that gentlemen of today don't have a role model. You know, the best we can get is, what, Pedro Pascal or Harry Styles? I mean, is that the best we can do today? You know, I wish that we'd have more role models like Optimus Prime, who are strong, justified, have good morals, willing to sacrifice himself and never gives up. That's the kind of Doctor that I'd want to see. That's the kind of Doctor I think that we'd all want to see. Someone with morals and standards, who is disciplined, wise, living for the simple things, able to show happiness and sadness at the same time, loyal to his companions and able to see the good in people, willing to sacrifice himself, looking at the beauty of the universe for what it is, and yes, give him faults, because no incarnation of the Doctor is ever perfect. And that also will help to relay some of the Doctor's humanity as well. Acknowledging that, yes, humanity has faults, but then again, seeing how good it can be, even at the end. Authoritarian and strong-willed. Able to keep calm no matter what. And when the past comes up, being able to live with yourself. My example is Preston Stormer from Hero Factory. I know the cartoon only lasted about roughly 8 or 9 episodes, but all throughout that, my favourite character was Preston Stormer, and still is, as to me it's having a big renaissance. You can see that from my stop motions, which are made badly. Which brings me on to the main thing, as well as the actors, because most of them have been miscasts, let's be honest. I don't think that Jodie Whittaker was the right fit for Doctor Who. If they wanted a female Doctor, they should have portrayed her like any other Doctor, really, as I've just said, and made her feminine. You know, my choice of casting would be Lindy Booth, because simply from watching The Librarians, I can see that she has what it takes to be the Doctor. And then, as for Ncuti, look, he just plays the same role in everything. Now, the writing. I've already mentioned that time after time it's broken law. But everything has an agenda these days. Everything that I've loved in my time has turned into something written by activists. So Doctor Who's one example. Star Wars, Star Trek, and now soon, sadly, Mass Effect, which meant the world to me, and partly what got me through a dark year in my life. Marvel, for definite, it should have really ended with Endgame. We shouldn't have got anything after that. Transformers, Warhammer 40,000, Trench Crusade, all of it has been dismembered. The only things that we have left are nostalgia. But even then, when something is brought back and rebooted like on Cartoon Network, it's ruined, like Bakugan or Ben 10. Although I do have to say I checked out when Omniverse came around. Lego has been low quality since they discontinued Hero Factory. And all I have left is that. Just nostalgia. And I feel as though you do get the odd gem here and there, like Shogun. But still, in the UK, you have to get Disney Plus to watch it. And as some of you guys know, I like wrestling. But I can't stand AEW. I stopped watching after the All Out fight. And when Cody Rhodes refused to turn heel. And I don't like the way they're treating the Stardom women. They just poach up all the talent. And I very much fear that Azumi might be signing with AEW very soon. And I don't agree with everything that WWE's done under Triple H. TNA, I feel as though... I'm not sure where that's going because of the WWE deal. I mean, they've purchased AAA, bringing back bloody Alberto Del Rio, and then get rid of Dakota Kai for no reason. Yeah, that's a great trade, isn't it? You need someone who understands the law, who understands what they're doing, who has a clear plan, and somebody who cares about traditional TV, and someone who is rather clever, but at the same time doesn't do the usual mystery boxes, and can write to intrigue and inspire hope for the future. Somebody who wants to write good morals and standards, and someone who doesn't care about politics but cares more about how to tell a story, because that's why we consume media, to escape from the world. And when you bring the real world on screens, it makes people a bit depressed. Now, fiction-wise, this is the case. But if you are covering a historical event, i.e. going back to the Victorian times, you got to be historically accurate. But again, we would need a team of people who know their stuff and don't care about politics and care more about a good storyline. Now, these are some of the contributing factors that have made this show utterly appalling and a shadow of its former self. More like a lifeless husk, I should say. And I think that Russell T Davies and the BBC need to just let it go and let the fans write their own stories, because I wasn't around during the Wilderness years, but back then everyone created their own thing with the Virgin New Adventures, Big Finish, and I'm sure that us, the fans, the old school hardcore traditionalist fans in particular, I'm sure we can make our own stories. Hell, most of us are doing that anyway. I know I certainly am. Let the show live on in their hearts. Write their own stories with their own doctors. Because no one else can. But yeah, that's all I had to say for this video. So, the reason I made this video is because I've watched Doctor Who for many years, and watching the current era is like watching someone that you love so dearly turn to the dark side. It's like Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan witnesses him becoming Darth Vader mentally and then later on physically. And it just makes me sad and depressed and angry at the way that it's been treated. And I've avoided saying things for many years, for quite a while, because I don't want to get involved in the culture war. I know it might seem like it, but at the end of the day, all I want is for everyone to just get on again. You know, I just want people to... No one's ever going to get on with each other, all right? No, not everyone is going to like everyone. But I want that sense of community again, you know? And I feel as though that has been taken away from me, and from indeed many other people. You know, if you have a slight disagreement, you're called a racist or sexist or bigot or whatever. And actually, no, they have a different opinion to you. I don't usually open up about my past, because I don't like sharing my personal life with everyone. But if you remember the days of when I was under a different name, so Devon of Kang Productions, or spelled Deven, that was actually... I'll tell you the story behind that. So I made myself in a WWE game, 2K18. I was originally going to be called Devon, but I misspelt that and put an E instead of an O. So I ran with that, and actually, I think it sounds much better. Yeah, if I was a wrestler, I would call myself Devon Kilgore. My my move set would be more of an MMA, well, semi MMA, but more hard hitting. Um, my signatures would be a so a backbreaker. So the first one is a tiger backbreaker, which somehow the opponent twirls themselves around, and then obviously it does the Irish curse backbreaker thing. It pays homage to two of my favourite wrestlers ever, Starlight Kid and Roderick Strong. Although another one is a wheelbarrow variation, which do you think that will be much easier? Do you think that will be safer? Um, the other one is just a standard basement super kick. I know everybody does it, but my one rule for a match that I would be in is that no one else super kicks, because that is overused by a lot of people, including the Young Bucks. Then my finishers would be the Tench, would be the Tench, which would be a homage to the TV show Hetty Feather. That is where Hetty and a few other foundlings are sent to if they misbehave extremely badly. And it will be a full Nelson bomb, a transition into a rear naked choke or a Kikina clutch. And then my other move, I'm kind of conflicted with this because I want it to be the Hammerlock Power Bomb as a homage to May Sarah, or a Fisherman's Brainbuster. So back in the day, I used to be a diehard BBC fan. I'd follow everyone else's politics without even thinking critically. And I also used to, if ever I used to be one of those dumb leftists. I'm so glad I didn't get into all the pronoun stuff. Thank God for that. But it trapped me in a place of eternal torment and loneliness. And I didn't want to become. And then a comment on one video, I was a bit shouty. Simply said cringe, and that was gaining a lot of likes. So I thought to myself, I've got to fix myself, because I don't want to be remembered for this type of content. I want to be remembered for making people happy. And I looked on some YouTube channels. One showed what other people in my generation were becoming. And another I discovered, which was more political. I actually discovered this channel the same. Well, when I say channel, I mean show, because it was part of the Daily Wire group. This channel was called The Comment Section, with a certain Brett Cooper. And tell you what else is strange? We were born 3 days apart. So she was born on the 14th of October. I've done some research. I'm not a stalker, don't worry. And I was born on the 17th of October. And that was the same year, 2001. I wonder if she was born in the middle of an afternoon radio show. I know I was born during a Steve Wright in the afternoon slot, but I've looked at the schedule and it wasn't actually Steve Wright in the afternoon. It was someone sitting in. So that's kind of disappointing. But then again, I'm in the slot of my favourite. I was born in the slot of my favourite radio show ever. But anywho, Brett Cooper started to change me for who I was. She started to show me the light, and then I got into the other channels. And then once all the Steven Crowder stuff kicked off, I decided to start unsubscribing from them because, he's screwed him out of his contract. And when they let Candace Owens go, that's when I unsubscribed from them altogether. And when they let Brett Cooper go, that's when I knew you can't trust Daily Wire anymore. But anywho, I'm glad I discovered the channels that I did at the time, because they've changed me as a person. Now, I don't agree with everything that the right says or does. In fact, recently I had the revelation where I was consuming too much political content. And because of that, again, it made me depressed. And I struggle to make friends or keep friendships because I'm afraid of disagreeing with someone. And I've learnt that that's quite unhealthy. And now, personally, I'd rather focus on creating stop motions, writing stories, and presenting content that people will enjoy. Although it might come out at a really slow pace, waiting is sometimes worth it, and I certainly hope so. In this case, I'm just a person on this planet, and there are many, many more things to worry about. And there are, many more people on this planet. And Doctor Who is just a TV show. It shouldn't matter, but it does to me and others, because it just shows that we've loved for a long time. That is special to us, and it's influenced so many people throughout so many generations. And without a doubt, it is one of the most, if not the most, iconic British show in history. And to see it fall so far is heartbreaking. I'm also worried about what's happening to the United Kingdom. Things have gone very much downhill. And I've noticed this for years. And I'm worried about my generation and what we're taught to believe. And it just makes me upset that what my generation has become. I've kept quiet about this for far too long. I want to say something, but I feel like I can't, because I'm being held back by my own fears and my own doubts and my own feelings. And I feel as though this was the opportunity to do so. I hope that everyone understands where I'm coming from. Comment below your thoughts. If you agree or disagree with me, that's more than okay. And I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all later. Ta-ra!